Welcome to this explainer on the Gymnastics Foundation coaching philosophy. If you're a coach, an assistant, or a program director, you already know that our role goes far, far beyond just teaching someone how to do a flip. We're essentially architects of human potential. Today, we're going to walk through the ultimate guidebook for shaping our young heroes. We'll be looking at everything from the core philosophy that drives our daily decisions, all the way down to the exact body mechanics and safety protocols that ensure our athletes actually thrive. Okay, let's dive into this. Think of these 6 sections as the chapters of our coaching journey, helping us build an absolute fortress of development for every single gymnast. We'll be covering the modern coaching philosophy, guiding athlete development, prioritizing safety and risk, the art of spotting, core body mechanics, and finally, physical literacy and planning. Chapter 1, the modern coaching philosophy, building the blueprint. Before we can even think about teaching a single skill, we have to draft the architectural blueprint of an athlete-centered environment. I want you to really let this statement sink in for a second. Every athlete deserves a coach who plans purposefully, teaches progressively, and develops the whole person, not just the skill. This right here is the absolute core belief of our entire coaching practice. Elite coaching isn't defined by the difficulty of the skills your athletes throw on the floor. It's entirely defined by the intentional, supportive environment you create every single day. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what we mean. The old coaching model, well, it was a skill-first, repetition-heavy, pretty fear-based system that relied on a one-size-fits-all kind of training. Contrast that with the modern professional model. It is completely body-first. We teach the why behind every single drill, we use autonomy supportive motivation, and we create highly individualized development paths. It's a massive shift from just dictating movement to actually guiding human development. Moving to Chapter 2, guiding athlete development, laying the foundation. Just like building a real house, you absolutely cannot rush the foundational stages without compromising the entire structure. We use the long-term athlete development, or LTAD framework, as our main roadmap. It starts with the fundamentals for ages 6 to 9, where a massive 80% of the focus is on general movement. Think the ABCs of agility, balance, coordination, and speed. As they grow into the learn-to-train and train-to-train stages, we gradually dial up those gymnastic-specific skills and the conditioning. By the time they hit train-to-compete and train-to-win in their late teens, we're optimizing for peak performance. Listen. Skipping these early stages just to chase quick results, it literally only increases their injury risk and completely limits their ultimate potential. Now, what's really interesting about this is the concept of critical windows. The absolute ideal window to develop flexibility is between ages 6 and 10, right before they hit that growth spurt. Coordination peaks between 7 and 12. If a program focuses exclusively on skill repetition during these early years and completely ignores these physical qualities, you miss irreplaceable developmental opportunities. Now, missing these windows doesn't mean the athlete can never get flexible or coordinated, but man, it makes the journey significantly harder for both of you later on. Because of these completely different stages, our coaching style has to adapt. For your 5 to 7-year-olds, sessions should max out at around 45 to 60 minutes, with really quick rotations. Because let's be honest, a 6-year-old's attention span is about as long as a cartwheel. By ages 8 to 10, we extend that to 90 minutes, introducing progressive conditioning and fun-based warm-up systems. When they reach 11 to 14, we're running full 2-hour sessions with structured physical preparation, incredibly detailed technical feedback, and a high expectation of athlete reflection. Chapter 3, prioritizing safety and risk, building the walls. Let me state this as firmly as possible. Safety is the first and most fundamental non-negotiable pillar of coaching. No skill is ever worth an injury. To actually manage risk, we use the gymnastics safety hierarchy. Notice it's an inverted pyramid. We actually want to start at the bottom of this list for ideal safety. The absolute best thing you can do, level 1, is eliminate the hazard entirely. If a mat is unstable or a floor is wet, you remove it, period. Level 2 is substitute. Can we use a softer landing or maybe a modified skill? Level 3 relies on engineer controls like your crash mats and padding. Level 4 is administrative controls, which are your gym rules and ratios. And finally, way at the top, level 5 is personal protective equipment like grips and wrist supports. PPE is your absolute last line of defense, and it is never a substitute for those first 4 levels. To really anchor this abstract concept into our day-to-day reality, we rely on the pre-session safety checklist. And this is a professional standard, it's not just a formality.
Before the athletes even arrive in the gym, we're checking the spring floor, ensuring mat connections don't have any gaps, verifying that crash mats are exactly in position, and checking all the equipment hardware. Exceptional coaching happens way before the gymnast even walks through the door.
Chapter 4. The Art of Spotting. Equipping the Armor. If safety checks are the walls of our fortress, spotting is the physical armor we provide our gymnasts to protect them from injury and really build up their confidence. Spotting isn't just about catching someone. It is a highly governed practice. Here are the 5 unbreakable laws. 1. Be present before the skill even begins. 2. Communicate clearly so they know exactly what to expect. 3. Spot the core to control their mass and strictly guide the limbs. 4. Use progressive reduction, so you start with full support and back off as their competence grows. And 5, arguably the most critical one, never surprise the athlete. Do not suddenly remove a spot. An unexpected loss of support causes falls and entirely erodes a gymnast's trust in you.
So the crucial point here is knowing exactly where to be and what to touch depending on the skill. For a back handspring, you're on the side or slightly behind, lifting the upper back and hips. For a cartwheel, you're at the side, rotating with their hips. Notice a common theme? The hips and core are almost always your primary contact points, because that is exactly how you control the athlete's center of mass.
Chapter 5. Core body mechanics, the architectural details. Think of this as the universal vocabulary of gymnastics movement. Every single complex routine you see in the Olympics is really just a transition between these 6 core shapes: the tuck, the pike, the straddle, the layout, the arch, and the hollow. As a coach, you must be able to instantly identify, teach, and correct these positions. If an athlete learns a layout with a huge arch in their lower back or a tuck with loose hips, those poor shapes become deeply ingrained habits that absolutely compromise landing mechanics and skill progression later on. But if we have to crown a king among all these shapes, it is the hollow body position. It is easily the single most important position in all of gymnastics. It links that upper and lower body power together. We develop it through a very strict 3-level core progression. First, static foundation, things like holding a dead bug or a hollow hold. Second, dynamic control, like V-ups, adding movement while perfectly keeping the shape. And third, gymnastic-specific applications, like hollow casts and candlestick rolls. Chapter 6, Physical Literacy and Planning. The Finished Fortress. This is where we bring our whole journey together, looking at the broader planning required to complete our coaching structure. Physical literacy is the absolute bedrock of a gymnast's skill set, especially between those ages of 5 and 12. We have to develop all 5 categories: locomotion, object manipulation, balance, body management, and finally, gymnastic-specific skills. If you skip physical literacy and push for early specialization, you're leaving incredibly dangerous gaps in your young heroes' capabilities that become so frustrating to fix as they get older. Let's move to and see how this builds into your daily session planning. Your gym setup completely changes based on who is actually on the floor. For a recreational beginner, you're using a fast circuit format with 4 to 5 quick stations, equipment down on the lowest settings, and crash mats everywhere. But for your competitive athletes, you're shifting to event-specific block rotations, competition height apparatus, and full safety systems. The intentionality is always the same, but the execution perfectly scales to the athlete's exact developmental stage. Which leaves us with the ultimate question, doesn't it? We've explored the modern philosophy, those vital stages of development, the safety hierarchies, the absolute laws of spotting, core mechanics, and how to plan a session. The blueprint is drawn and the foundation is firmly set. Armed with these tools, are you ready to build the next generation of resilient heroes in your gym? Thank you for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you out on the floor.